Good afternoon. Before we start, I'd like to invite our friend Jean Finstein up. Oh, here she is, to make an announcement.
Thank you, Sean. I'm not as tall as Sean and Greg, so I'll just do this. Reminder, Friends of Wheeling is having a stained glass church tour on Saturday. That's 2 days from now, part of the month-long celebration of Wheeling Glass here in Wheeling. If you have not seen the glass exhibit upstairs, make sure you stop on your way out. The glass tour will start here at 1 o'clock. We'll go from here to St. James Lutheran Church, which is across from the City Building, then to St. Matthew's to see their Tiffany windows, then to First Presbyterian, then St. Joseph's Cathedral, and then to Good Mansion Wines to see their glass there. So it's a free tour, starts at 1 o'clock on Saturday. If it rains, bring an umbrella. Thanks, Sean.
Okay, and related to that, if you want to go on the Island Mold and Machine Tour, which is a fascinating place where they still make molds for glass, and it's in Fulton, but they need a number because they have just a couple of guys who do the guides, the tours. Let me know, and I will let them know. And that's on April 30th, which is a Saturday. Okay. April 30th. Yeah. Okay? Good afternoon. My name is Sean. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Please silence your cell phones, if you would. Tonight, Vietnam War Class 2, Dr. Capel will be back, and we're talking about the U.S. involvement. The first part was about the French Indochina War, and we're moving on tonight. Next Tuesday, Charles Douche will be here. He has written a book called Balloon, oh geez, I didn't write the title down, but it's about Lewis Bennett Jr., and Charles is a historian with the U.S. Air Force, and he wrote this book about a local aviator from the First World War that you may have heard of. Then, well, that brings us to today. How about that? Gregory Gikas is here, and he's a retired teacher. He'll tell you all about himself. He's from Orwood, good man, and he loves history and making things, and he's a wood carver, so he's combined all these talents, and he'll tell you about these two amazing model boats that he made. Please welcome Gregory Gikas.
Thank you. I'm here today to present a program. I divided this presentation up into 3 parts. The first part is I will give you facts about the boat. The second part would be about the actual sinking of the boat. And the third part will be how I built that model and what materials did I use to build it. Both of those ships, I'm not going to talk about that one, not right now. Both of those ships, that one in particular, I had probably about $40 worth of, between $40 and $60 worth of money into that boat. So I'm going to start off here. On this April the 15th, today's the 10th, it'll make 110 years since the Titanic sunk. 110 years. Because it sunk on April the 15th, 1950. 110 years. They started the construction of this boat in 1909, and it took 26 months to build. And that's pretty quick for a boat that size, 26 months to complete. And it was built by Harlan and Wolff. They built those big ocean liners at that time. And the shipbuilding company was from Belfast, North Ireland. And some of the features of that boat was 884 feet long. That's almost 3 football fields. It's 16 feet shy of 3 football fields. It was 92 and a half. It was, you can't hear? Can you hear in the back? It was 92.5 feet wide, and from the bottom up to the top of the stack was 175 feet. And it had a combined tonnage of 46,640 tons. Now, the capacity of that ship was 3,400 passenger and crew. But when it took its last trip, they only had around 2,400 people. That's all they had on board. This ship, it was great on the inside, but on the outside is where they had the problems, and I'll get into it a little later on. This ship provided the passengers and crew with many amenities. They had 2 libraries, they had a heated swimming pool, gymnasium, they had 2 barbershops, 1 hair salon. I figured they would have more hair salons, because you know how the ladies always got to fix their hair real nice and neat. They said it only had 1. They had restaurants, squash courts, Turkish bath, and shuffleboard. Okay. Ticket prices, first class was $150, second class was $60, and the third class was $35. One lady from South America paid $2,400 for a ticket. Now, obviously, she had more than 1 room. Okay, the deck, they had 9 or 10 decks on this boat. From the top deck down, they had steel plates. They used steel plates. And those plates were anywhere from 12 to 16 feet long and a ½ inch thick. All the decks going on down, steel. But also they covered those decks with pine wood. The pine wood was 3 inches thick, and the width of it was between 5 and 6 inches width, and the length was 12 feet, 14 feet, 16 feet. They did that because that would protect the metal, steel, the regular steel on top of that. They put that wood on top of that. But where the people walked the most, probably in the catwalks all the way through this way, or in the dining hall areas, they used teak wood. Teak wood is a very hard wood. It's like a yellowish brown, and it doesn't corrode. And they use that on top. Smokestacks, unbelievable. Each smokestack was 62 feet high. 62 feet high, and they were 22 feet, 8 inches in diameter. Each stack weighed 60 tons. And we all know there's 2,000 pounds to a ton. 60 tons the smokestacks weighed. They used the first stack, the second stack, the third stack. On the fourth stack, it was a fake. They put it on there just for kind of cosmetic purposes. Cosmetic purposes, this is the last one The only time they would use this last stack if there were gas smoke buildup in the kitchen or in the engine room or in the boiler section, if they had steam to release, they would vent it out this last stack. But I also read that that last stack, it said that they had a coffee lounge in the bottom of it. I don't know how that'd be possible, but that's what it said. Unless there's little compartments over there, they might have had it adjacent to that, but that's what they said. Okay, let's see. Smokestacks. The rescue boats, that's another problem they had. Here they are right here. They had 20 of them. And that wasn't nearly enough to provide for that cruise. They had about 2,400 people. And those boats could hold 60 to 65 people. And those boats were 30 feet long, 9 feet wide, and 4 foot deep. And later on, when I discussed the sinking, those boats came into play too. Not enough. And these are little wires here, right here. They're called davits, D-A-V-I-T-S. I didn't know what that was, so I got my dictionary out and looked up davits, and it said they're small, movable cranes with arms on them. And those davits could go inward this way, they could go outward. They were good when they had to get off the boat to go outward and down. But the trouble is with that, they had 20 boats, they only had 16 davits. 16. So I'll get to that later too. But I'm just bringing it up now because I'm at the top of the boat and I want to work downwards. Let's see here. The kitchen. All right, the dining halls. I talked about the rest of the dining halls. They had 3 dining halls. The biggest one was 115 feet long, and it was as wide as the boat. And they could accommodate 554 people. And when you have dining halls, next, you have to have the kitchens. They had 5 big kitchens on board, 5 kitchens. And chefs, they had 60 head chefs on that boat. And also each chef had 60 assistants. So you can see from that number, they had enough people to handle the culinary part of the ship, the food part. When you have those chefs, you have menus. You gotta have menus. They had 6 entrees that they really used all the time. The entrees were, they had roast beef, they had steak, they had turkey, they had chicken, they had oysters, and the last one they had lamb chops, my favorite. So that's what they had. And then desserts. What do you think they had for desserts? What? Chocolate cake? You're out. They didn't have chocolate cake. They had plum pudding. Yummy, yummy. Anybody ever eat plum pudding? Anybody? How's it taste? Was it sweet?
A little, not much.
All right. Did they serve it to you on the boat? I'm not being smart. But when I was building this boat, I come up with all kind of ideas, you know. So anyhow, they had plum pudding and they had ice cream. So, and the to wash all of that down, they had wine. When they departed Hampton for that last pitiful voyage, they had over 1,000 bottles of wine. Now that sounds like a lot, but for 2,300 people, and if you're gone maybe 7 days, that's not a whole lot of wine, really. And plus, there's probably a lot of the people that didn't drink wine. So if you didn't drink wine, they had whiskey. They had whiskey. They had cognac, and believe me, I've had cognac. And when you drink it, you can feel it going down, just real slow. And it burns too. And it's expensive too. It's probably comparable to our Crown Royal. It's very good. They had champagne, they had vermouth, they had hot balls, whatever you wanted, they had it. That boat had everything. All right, let me switch over to here. Number one. All right, I covered the upper part of the boat. There's some things on there I didn't cover. I really didn't understand, I'll be honest with you. But I've collected all kind of information here. I thought I was back in college taking notes. So now, in the front part of this is the bow. The bow is the front part of the boat. The stern is the back part. And in between is the hull. Up front, they had 3 massive anchors. The one in the middle weighed 15 tons. And they had 2 on the side right here. And I used fence staples for those anchors. They come out just right. The fence staple goes up, it's like a U. I used that, and I bent the end parts to push it into the boat. And the other staple, it was thinner, it goes over that. And I pushed that in, and it worked out perfect. There's one on top of the ship here. I guess it was a spare. But anyhow, those combined anchors weighed about 50 tons. And here's what I want you to listen to. This chain that pulled the anchors up and left it down. One link, just one little link of chain, weighed 350 pounds. Now you can imagine what kind of motor or power would need to pull that anchor up and lower it. The total chain and the total anchors was over 100 tons, over 100 tons. Okay, here's the next part, this part all the way over. They made 1,000 steel plates that they made. Each plate, there was 2 sizes. One size was 30 feet long, 6 feet wide, and 1 inch thick. That was one plate. The bigger plates were 36 feet long, 6 feet wide, but thickness, they were 1.5 inches. They used the bigger, heavier plates towards the bottom. The other ones towards the top. They didn't make them right. And I'll explain that to you on the next. They did not make them right. They had problems with them, and it caused that boat to sink. That was one of the problems that caused it to sink. The rivets were caused to make the boat sink. The rivets, they didn't do those right too. Made them out of softer metal. Okay, over in the back, over on that side, towards the back. That rudder that they had in the back was 78 feet, 8 inches tall. 78 feet, 8 inches tall rudder. and it was this way length. It was 15 feet 3 inches, and it was made out of 100% steel. It weighed over 100 tons. A rudder on the boat weighed over 100 tons. That played a part in the sinking too. That played a part in the sinking. Okay, they had the rudder, they had the propellers. I'm getting down about this here, the propellers. Okay. Those propellers, they had 3 propellers. The one in the middle was, steel propeller. The 2 outside propellers, there's one on this side, one going on the other side. They were 23 feet 6 inches in diameter. That's how big they were. And the one in the middle, the little one, the diameter was 17 feet. The rudder, okay, manganese, okay, I got all that. Okay, now we're going down to the back of the boat. That's where they had the coal. When they left Belfast, they loaded that boat up with coal. They had a coal bin in it, I guess. They carried 6,600 tons of coal. That's what was in the boat. And every day that boat was in operation, it would use up between 600 and 800 tons of coal per day. They had 176 people they called firemen working on that crew. And they would feed them furnaces around the clock, 176 people. The coal that they used was anthracite. Anthracite, we're from West Virginia. We probably have more bituminous coal than anthracite. The anthracite's the hard coal. It's the really good coal. Gives out more energy. The bituminous, it burns up quicker. So that's what they used. They had 29 boilers on that boat. Now, they said they had 29 boilers, but it said it. They had 6 furnaces inside the boilers. I didn't understand that. You think it'd be the opposite way around. But I'm going to tell you, like I said, I did collect a lot of information. And a lot of this information, from one source, it doesn't jive to another source. It doesn't happen that way. So when you're doing something like that, you should just stick to one source. But anyhow, they had 29 total boilers. It said burning coal to generate steam. They had 159 furnaces. So those people had to fuel 159 furnaces. There's 176 people. All right, I've given you some facts about the boat. I've taken you from the top down, around. There's some things that I did not add on because I didn't understand. I try to find some answers to them. Some of them I did, some of them I didn't. So we'll leave that go for now. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the sinking. The sinking. I want you to see. Ooh, I want you to see something, people. See, that's how you take notes in college. This, that. Where's your laptop? The laptop can't handle all this, baby. Right here, all this, and I had some of these. I might have thrown them out before I come. There they are. See, I used to talk into my phone, and I'd get on Google, how many this and such, and they'd give me the answers. So I hurry up and write it down. I don't know how many pieces of paper I have like this. Look at it. Everyone. Plus these 2. You know what I said this morning when I woke up? I'm ready to go. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So the sinking. I have this in chronological order. The maiden voyage, it's just a little caption I'm going to read. The maiden voyage began in Southampton, England, on April the 10th, 1912. It was destined for New York City with 2,240 passengers and crew. Struck an iceberg at 11:40 p.m. Now I'm going to stop right there, 11:40 p.m. That's on April the 14th. They were warned during the day about those icebergs being in that region. So the captain sent out these lookouts, they're called. He sent 2 people out. And the lookouts on this boat, they call it a crow's nest. It's right here. You see this little thing here? It's right here. And they were supposed to have 2 pairs of binoculars in that area. They didn't have any binoculars. They didn't have it. So at 11:40 p.m. at night, it is dark. You know what I mean? It's not like 7 o'clock. But anyhow, they were on there. They looked out. They didn't find anything. They didn't have the binoculars. So at 11:40 p.m. 11:40 p.m., that boat struck the iceberg on April the 14th. But before that, when they did see the iceberg coming, they rang the bell 3 times. The captain wanted to know what was going on. They told him. And so at that point, 11:40 p.m., this here is, 11:40 p.m. on April 14th. It did strike, the iceberg did strike the Titanic, 11:14. And from that time on, that boat was in complete chaos. They didn't have any kind of emergency plan or anything for the crew. People were running around. That iceberg hit the starboard side of the boat. When you're on a boat, when you're looking out to the front, the starboard side is on the right-hand side. And that's where it hit, right through here. And it put a gash in there between 30 and 40 feet. So that water was pouring in on the boat. This boat had 15 compartments. 15 compartments. And they also had bulkheads. A bulkhead is steel. It's like a curtain, partition. It goes up in the boat to seal the boat, the compartments. But what happened when they made the plans for this boat? They didn't make those bulkheads go all the way up to this first floor. They only went up between 11 and 13 feet. 11 and 13 feet. So when that water started entering that boat, when it got up to that mark, guess what it did? The water poured into the other compartment, filled that compartment up, poured into the 3rd compartment, poured into the 4th compartment. And when the 5th compartment was flooded, I'm going to stop right there because what happened? There's a lot of things that were happening on top of the boat simultaneously. So I'm going to stop right there. And what happened to this boat? From this 3rd stack on, it started cracking underneath. This boat was going like this. Just like this. And under that 3rd stack, it cracked. And this front part went down. And the back part almost went up vertical, but then it slammed down real hard into the water. It made a big splash. There was there was probably 50 to 60 people on the back. Throw them off the boat. It threw some lifeboats off the back of the boat. That was probably the best thing that happened because they landed upright. Those people swam into those lifeboats. But it was like this, and when it went like this, it snapped. And when it snapped, the first part was down. You know how far down was? 12,540 feet. That's equivalent to 2.3 miles down. That's how far we go. And you know, see, I skipped some things here, but I'll get it back. But anyhow, when that front went down, the back went down, what happens on a big boat like this? Causes a big whirlpool. Causes a big whirlpool, and if you're around that part that's going down, guess where you're going down with it? You're going to get sucked down in there. And there's a statement right here. There's a statement right here I want to read. It says, "No records of any passenger or crew surviving without access to a lifeboat." In other words, if you didn't have a lifeboat, you were sunk. That happened before it cracked. Up here, these lifeboats, they stopped sending them over for around 2:05. And it took the whole ship to hit the bottom. It took it between 8 and 10 minutes to hit the bottom of the ocean. That's what it said. They estimated that it was going around 31 miles an hour, you know, when it was going down in the water. So other things up front, I kind of jumped ahead of myself. But these steel plates that I told you about, when they manufactured them, when they manufactured those steel plates, there was two sizes that I told you about. They had too much sulfur in them, and they had too much slag in them. And when that cold water hit those plates, and they hit those rivets, it caused fractures in the seams of those big plates, and they come off. Those rivets popped out more. And that boat was just, it's amazing they got that many people off the boat, really, to be honest with you. Because it was just filling up real quick. They couldn't do anything about it. So that's what would happen with these steel plates and the rivets. And here's what I don't understand. I know I have a hard head, but those rivets, they made them out of softer metal. They were made out of a softer metal, like iron rung, they called it, or whatever. So how would you, and before they pounded them through the steel plates had holes in them. I guess they had to overlap them. How would you pound something that's soft into something that's hard? You know what I mean? That didn't make sense to me. How could you do that? But you know, and that was supposed to be the best luxury liner at that time. The best. It was the best for everything they had inside, but outside it was like a car. It's like putting in a new motor in the car, but the outside's all rusted. You know what I mean? I don't know how they. And here's another thing I don't understand. When they put them big plates together, that's not like putting a tinker toy together. You know what I'm talking about? Those big plates were huge, and like I said, 4.5 ton each. So if you overlapped them and you put those rivets in, fine. But what did you put the rivets, how did that hold that whole mass up against the frame? You know what I mean? I talked to my phone, I don't know how many times. I didn't get any answer. I didn't, honestly, I relied on that a lot, but I didn't get any answers. I did not get any answers at all. So When the boat sank, bigger parts of the boat start breaking loose. They come up to the surface, like furniture, couches, chairs. And those 4 people that were on that boat, it wasn't in a lifeboat. They was trying to swim to get on those pieces of furniture. And that is sad. Real sad. They all died, all of them. They all died. When I was building this boat, I get very, very involved. I'm in my basement. I don't take my telephone down there. And I tell some of these hard-headed people not to call me in the morning. But they call me in the morning, and I hear the phone ringing, and that's what I do. I stay downstairs. But anyhow, I was here. About 722. That's what the Carpathia picked up. Those other people, they picked those people up off the rest of these little boats here. 722. Now look here, Julie. If those boats would have been filled to capacity, 20 boats, it's 60 people. That's 1,200 people they could have saved. That's 500 less, 600 less. They could have saved more. But I don't think, I'm telling you right now, if they would have more boats, they'd have more boats. The way that iceberg hit, the damage, I don't think it would have made any difference. The difference was the crew, the people that was on the boat, they didn't know how to operate those stackers. See, they didn't know how to operate. And when something like that happens, you know how people, everybody helter-skelter, you're running around. They didn't have any kind of plan. They didn't know how to, some of them did, but not too many of them. They didn't know how to operate this here. And they had trouble with the ladies. They wanted to put them on first with the kids. They didn't want to get on the boats. They were afraid. From this part here, down to the water line, was over 80 feet. They were scared of the height. And finally, they got them on the boat. And when they lowered the boats, you know how those boats were going down? This way, that way. You know what I mean? They weren't parallel to the water. Poor planning. That's what it was. Poor planning. The captain, he was worried about getting to New York quick to set a record. Well, he didn't make it. None of them did, really. So, in the back here, this here is solid wood, but then I had to cut, this here is aluminum siding here, thick aluminum siding. And I had to cut them in pieces. That aluminum was good for that boat because it stabilized the boat. It stabilized the boat. And like I said, the boat had 15 compartments. I'm going to give you A+ for my class. And that guy sitting next to you, he must be your tutor. All right, that's better. See, oh, this is good. But anyhow, now I got sidetracked. Okay, yeah, the plates. When you have 4 knee operations, you don't hop, you just kind of slide. But anyhow, I used aluminum siding here off of an old garage. That's what I use over here. And these boats were made out of some boats I use dowel rods and just cut them in half. Then I scoop the tops of them out. My tools are very, very sharp. I keep them sharp. The whole problem with this boat, when I made it, you see all those windows? I started to count them. I said, to hell with it. I'm not counting all these windows. Here, one row. These, the little ones here, I used an ice pick. What I did on an ice pick, I took the diameter of the ice pick up 1/8 of an inch. I put a piece of tape around it as a stopper, and I would lay these flat down, and I'd use a hammer with the ice pick, and I would know how far to go down on each one. And I did it that way, come across. There's holes here, there's different size holes. You build this boat, once you get this side done, guess what you got to do? You got to go on the other side and start.
Got to hold the mic up, Greg.
Yes, sir. Oh, my goodness. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not used to being on TV or whatever. That's what you had to do. That's why it took me 8 months to do this boat. 8 months and 1 week. And I worked on it religiously. Out of those 8 months, I might have missed 5 days. That's about it. I go down in the morning and work between 2.5 and 3 hours a day. But I'm never in a hurry. You don't have good work if you're in a hurry. I'm serious. You hear this, that's good enough today. That's all you hear, that's good enough. For me, when I used to work with my dad, that's good enough wasn't good enough, believe me. So my dad used to tell me 2 things. Do the job right or don't do it at all. And the other thing he told me is, why is there always enough time to do the job over, but never enough time to do it right in the first place? And that's very, very true. And he used to tell me a lot of other things too, but I can't tell you. It's more than a lecture. So, okay, I'm done with that part. Yes?
So it was only out 2 days when that happened?
It left Hampton on the 10th. And on the 14th, the night of the 14th. See, the night of the 14th was about 11:40 when the iceberg hit. 11:40. Then the next day was the 15th. That's when it sunk. On the 15th, around 2:20 a.m. in the morning. See, and it was only up, it was, once the iceberg hit and by the time the back end was gone, it was 2 hours and 40 minutes. That's how long that boat was huge and it sank in 2 hours and 40 minutes. 2 hours and 40 minutes.
If you have a question, raise your hand. I'll come to you with a mic so the folks listening online can hear the question.
There's one in the back.
Wait, hold on just a sec.
How long was the travel away with the Carpathian to get there?
The Carpathian was when the axle had sunk because the Titanic was sending distress calls out. But it sunk. It was 60 miles away. It was 60 miles away from the Titanic. And when it arrived, they said an hour and a half or maybe 2.5 hours. When it arrived, the boat had already sunk. All they saw was dead people floating on top of the water with those life preservers on, that you put on that keeps your head above the water. That's all they found. And they got all the people off. They got all the people off of those little lifeboats. And that come to around 720.
Any other questions?
Go.
One moment.
My daughter works in the cruise industry, and she was saying that the new MSC American, that just their maiden voyages today, and comparing to the size of the Titanic, the width of that ship
It's
is
huge.
154 feet.
Yeah, they're
And
huge.
it's the length is 1,083 feet.
That's right.
And then it has 22 decks.
That's it.
And the passenger capacity is
5,000?
6,700.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah.
America, we have the biggest ship now. It's an aircraft carrier, the Gerald R. Ford. It's 1,100 feet long. I think it's 80 yards wide. That's the biggest ship that we have today. And those cruise ships that they have today, you see them on that Carnival or whatever. They're huge. They're bigger than the Titanic. Yes, they are. Yeah, I believe it. You know something about those ships that I should tell you right now? Who wants to go ask? Go ahead. No, you go ahead, Tony.
You mentioned the aluminum siding
Yeah.
and drilling holes in wood. What other materials did you use to build that model?
I use those coat hangers. Coat hangers, these are pipes. But I was walking up the alley one morning, and I saw 25 coat hangers. They were tied together, and I pounced on them right away. I pounced on those 25 coat hangers. They were brand new. So that's what these are. And this is beer cans, I told you, the small beer cans. I get the big beer cans, too, for airplane wings and things. Okay. Metal part, these poles were made out of, I had old garage doors. You knew the springs would go through, but these wires went through, and I got 4 pieces of wire about 6 feet long. And I took some steel wool to them and cleaned them up, and they were good for these poles right here. That one and that one right there. Most of that siding, like I said, the tops, this part here is the trim what they put around your windows. It's not as thick as the bottom part. But that bottom part's great. As you can see, on the bottom, you see the wood on the bottom? You see that metal that's dead under? That was perfect. If you look at it closely, you can see there's like a little bit of crease on the bottom. That's where I had to bend it up. But that's one piece for that side, and I have one piece for the other side. You see those walnut stands on it? You see those, what do you call those what do you call those bolts? What kind of bolts? Wing nuts, that's it. Wing nuts. So you can just loosen them and that'll come off. But it makes a good stand that way. That walnut was from a crucifix I just carved for a lady. It was around 34 inches, long. And that's what that's for. I use everything up. I don't throw things away. If I can use them, I'll put them on the boat. I don't know, but I will not put it in. I don't know if it will, but I don't want it to get wet. Okay, that presents another problem.
How long did it take to build the
How long did
model?
it take? It took me 8 months and 1 week. And I worked on it 2.5 to 3 hours a day. That's what I worked on. And I didn't miss maybe 5 days in that period of time. Who else? What was the other question? You know what my scale is? Yeah, I was curious. I go over at Martin's Ferry at the Toys R Us store, and I buy a model of that. I bought a model of this boat. And what I do, I get the largest part first out of the box, from here to here. And on this boat, it was 17 inches. So I said to myself, how big do you want to make this boat? 34 inches? I said, no, that's not, I want to go a little bit bigger than that. So I went 3 times. I went up to 51 inches. So if you measure this boat from here to here, it's a little over 51 inches. And from that point on, whatever scale, that's my scale, whatever you use, you must follow it through. If these boats are 1 inch in the package, you make them 3 inches. Length times width times height. That's how I do. The smokestacks, the same thing. Length with height. That's how I did that. And I'm going to tell you right now, you must follow that through because this boat here is completely different. I zoomed up, I built the bottom, and got up to these turret guns. These turret guns come off. Here. You can look at the bottom of it. Look at the bottom of it, pass it around so people can see it. Just the work that you do on those little turrets. Here, pass it straight back. Look at the bottom. Look at the bottom. Here, I got one over here. I don't want to take this last one off because that airplane's on there and I don't want to mess things up. Here, go down that way. I'm going to, here, you go down that way. Let's go down. That's just one little turret. That's why it takes me 6 months to do this boat. This boat wasn't bad. The only thing bad about this boat was the redundancy with these windows. I mean, there's just a lot of them. It wasn't really hard to do, but that took up all my time.
Any other questions?
Okay, that was the, well, I'm into that part now. Here's what I used. Here's what I used. Here's what I used. Screws, 1/2 inch nails with a head. You got to use little brads with a head. Paint, I had all the paint. I bought a can of this Rust-Oleum, and this was white anyhow. And I painted it over and I painted those boats. While I'm talking about painting, I paint this project as I go. I paint as I go. Why do I do that? Because if I would glue this whole thing up and put it together, and you try to paint it, it's too hard to do. You're going to smear paint up. I'm a very good meat painter, but you'll smear it up. And I didn't want to do that. So I just paint. As soon as I got these 4 stacks done, I painted them and set them aside. Move down to this part. There's wood under this part. There's wood under all these compartments. All of it. Back this way, wood. Paint it, put it aside. Then I start, at the end, I start putting it together just like a puzzle. And it comes to, and if you're not accurate on this boat right here, you're going to have all kind of problems with this boat because most of the structure of this boat is in the middle. It's in the middle. It's not like that boat. That boat is easier to do. This boat has all kind of little things on them. And if you don't measure them right and make them too big or too small, you got a problem. You got a real problem. Then you got to tear this apart, take this apart. You start doing that, you're going to tear. These little cranes here, these little cranes right here, there's 13 pieces of metal on one little crane. 13 pieces. 13 pieces. These lifeboats, I made them out of oak and dug them out. There's all kind of, these battleships had guns on them everywhere. Everywhere, every place. These little airplanes, they're made out of metal and walnut. And that little propeller is made out of aluminum. Now, those. Yeah, I made everything's made. These barrels. My dad's mother come from Greece. Now, this is the God's truth. Come over from Greece. And you know how those old people, they're always wrapping things up, putting cloth around them, putting them in a can. So when she died, my dad went down and got some of her things. And he brought these spikes home. And when I seen them, I knew where they were from. And I said to myself, I have to use those spikes. I have to use them. And they were the perfect diameter. But what I did, I cut the ends of them off, the pointed ends, and I filed them down smooth. I drilled holes in them. The back part is the head. I cut that head off, and I put threads on it. Those turret guns, there's threads in the back of that barrel, and I drilled holes into the turret about 1/2 inch. The But there's more to these than meets the eye, because on those turrets that you have, there's a dowel pin that fits down in here like this. And I didn't want those guns to be sticking real high or real low. As you can see, they're all about the same. And I didn't want them doing this here, that flip-flop thing. They're actually the same. So I had to get a long bit on my drill about like this. Caught back, caught the angle here. I cut an angle on another piece of 2x4 and used it as a guide. And I drilled into each one of those turrets. And believe me, I was really happy the way they turned out. I mean, it took time to do that.
Greg, how long did it take you to make that?
6 months. It does. It has more parts to it. And you know something? In real life, okay, this boat was 639 feet long. That's what it was. And it was 95 feet wide. That boat there is a third long. You know, it didn't have anything on the side. It's just straight up. But what caused me, it just took so long to do those windows. You're there forever. You're there forever. And I kept thinking about how, yes, David.
You were talking about doing it right or having to start over and tear down.
Yeah.
Were you ever, on either one of these projects, did you ever get to the point where you were a third of the way done and you said, I gotta tear it out and start again?
No, David, I don't do that. Here's what I did. honestly, David, when I work on something, I know I'm going to run into some problems. I know that on each one. But I know I've done enough of things. I know that I'll fix it. I'll fix it. Whatever I run into, I'll fix it. And I don't get in a hurry. Don't get in a hurry. That's when you start cutting yourself, when you start messing up and you're going to replace them. No, when I start something, I'm going to finish it. And believe me, I'll finish it. I learned that from my dad, too. It's not hard work. It's not like me getting up and going in the coal mine and working with the steel mill. It's not hard work. And it keeps your mind sharp. I taught school for 35 years, man. I try to keep my mind sharp. So I've had self-discipline all my life. And I learned that from my dad. Anything can be done. Figure it out. Look at today. All the things on the internet. You run into a problem, like I run into a problem, I say, how can I fix it? You can fix it. When I do carvings, everybody says, what if you cut the nose off? Well, I'll put a new nose on. I'll just put a new nose on. I'll cut the slot and put it in. You fix things. You fix things. You got to think things out first before you get into situations. I'm looking to start at something new, probably making something bigger. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I enjoy making those things. I don't watch TV. TV's a joke. I'm not sitting around and gossiping about, these people get on those phones, they stay there forever. Yo.
Have you done other models?
Yeah, I have a stealth bomber at home. I have a B-29, the Enola Gay, that dropped the atomic bomb on Japan. It's really nice. It's made out of bigger beer cans, the bigger beer cans. No, because look, you wrap it around them wings. It's good. What else I have at home? I have a Sherman tank with General Patton sitting in there with his binoculars. D.K. Wright was at my house yesterday, and she did a part, a show, I don't know. I didn't watch the first part. At 5, I was in there trying to get these notes. I have so many notes on this. I said, what are you doing? And I'm not going to lie to people. I'm not trying to hoodwink you. The information I gave you is pretty, it's accurate, really. It's accurate from what I copied it from. No, because I've given a lot of them away. I've given a lot of them away, and two I wish I would have had if I could give back. I was talking to Mr. Steiner back here. I did a nativity scene for an older guy, and he passed away. And I charged him, I think, $600 for him. There were 6 pieces. But when he passed away, I didn't want to go out there right away. I went and paid my respects, and I waited. So they had an auction at his house. And I went out there. What I wanted, the nativity scene was gone already. His daughter took it back to Iowa. I offered them $3,000 for it, but they wouldn't take it. It was. I tell you, I get those carving books and things, different things. I've been to Italy, I've been to Greece, I've been to Paris, and those 6 nativity pieces, where I put them up against anything that I'm serious. They were beautiful, but I didn't get to. Huh? I don't take pictures of things. Pictures are all right, but like if I do something, that's why I get a model, or I make a clay figure out of clay. If I'm doing angels, I'll make a clay figure, and I can bend the wings a certain way. You can see it all in the round. I don't take pictures. I don't take pictures. I don't know, David. I'm thinking I want to do something big. I might make a little, when I'm undecided, I might make a few little angels, more angels, because I've given a lot of those out. I'm getting low on the supply. So I'm gonna have to make a few more of those. I'm gonna tell you, the society we live in today, anything that you do, I don't care what it is. If it's cooked, you bake things, anything. You make birdhouses, it don't make any difference. Do it. Do it. You get peace of mind. And when you get it done, you do the best that you can. You can say, hey, look, see, I didn't think I could do that, but you did. So you take the next step. You take the next step. I've been through a lot. It doesn't make any difference to me. If somebody comes to me and asks me to do something, I can do it. I know I can do it. Give me the material, the wood. Give me the tools if I don't have it, and I'll do it. I'll do it.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Thanks, everyone, for coming, and thanks, Greg.
Yes?
And
Hey, you can come up here and look if you want.
come up and look at the boats.
Yeah, I'll stay here. I know one thing. Oh, wait a minute, people, listen.